In the heart of Europe, amidst familiar landmarks, lie 15 ancient structures that challenge modern science and leave archaeologists bewildered. Mysterious stone circles, whose age is counted in thousands of years, still guard their secrets, like silent sentinels of forgotten knowledge. What compelled our ancestors to build these monuments with such precision? Many of these structures are shrouded in legends about their unearthly origins, with ancient castles and towers said to have been built by beings with supernatural abilities. How else can we explain the perfect alignment of countless blocks without the use of modern technologies? In the ruins of these enigmatic places, archaeologists continue to find artifacts that do not fit into Europe's official history, as if someone deliberately left us messages from the past that we have not yet been able to decipher. Stone labyrinths and walls, created by unknown masters of the past, demonstrate a level of engineering skill that seems impossible for their time. Some of these structures are oriented with such precision towards the stars that even modern architects with their computer technologies would envy. What did the ancient builders know, and why was this knowledge lost? Perhaps the answers lie in the stones themselves, silently guarding their thousand-year-old secrets. However, not only continental Europe preserves its secrets. Insular England has given the world, perhaps the most famous and mysterious megalithic complex, known as Stonehenge. This ancient stone circle, whose age exceeds 4,500 years, continues to evoke awe and reverence in everyone who finds themselves in its presence. Imagine massive stone monoliths weighing up to 26 tons, some of which were transported from distances of over 240 kilometers. How? How could people of the Bronze Age, without wheels or draft animals, move these colossal boulders across hilly terrain, forests, and rivers? Modern experiments have shown that even with the use of primitive wooden sledges and logs, such an operation would have required the efforts of hundreds, if not thousands, of people. But the most astonishing mystery of Stonehenge is not its construction, but its purpose. The arrangement of the stones demonstrates an extraordinary understanding of astronomical cycles. On the summer solstice, the first rays of the rising sun pass precisely through the central arch, falling on the so-called altar stone. Where did our ancestors acquire such profound knowledge of the movement of celestial bodies? Some researchers assert that Stonehenge was an ancient observatory, allowing the prediction of solar and lunar eclipses. Others see it as a place for rituals and ceremonies connected to the cult of the ancestors. Still others view it as a gigantic calendar marking the change of seasons. But there are even bolder theories. What if Stonehenge was an ancient instrument for communicating with other worlds or dimensions? Local legends speak of nights when the stars take a special position, and the stones begin to resonate, emitting a low humming sound that can be felt throughout the body. Studies of the acoustic properties of Stonehenge have shown that the stones indeed possess unique sound characteristics capable of amplifying certain frequencies. For what purpose did the ancient builders need these acoustic effects? Perhaps to create a special psychological state among the participants of the rituals? Or for something even more mysterious? The mystery is further complicated by recent archaeological discoveries in the vicinity of Stonehenge. Modern scanning methods have revealed under the ground dozens of previously unknown structures, from small pits to massive wooden constructions that have been hidden from sight for thousands of years. These discoveries suggest that Stonehenge was only the central part of a much larger ritual landscape that stretched over many kilometers. Each new season of excavations brings new questions and not answers. Why did the builders of Stonehenge choose this particular place? What do the strange spiral patterns discovered on some of the stones mean? What connection exists between Stonehenge and other megalithic structures in Britain, such as Avebury or Callanish? Some researchers have discovered that many ancient stone circles in Britain are located on straight lines that intersect the island and form a complex geometric network. Coincidence? or evidence of the existence of an ancient system of communication or energy lines of which we have long forgotten. In the early morning, when the first rays of the sun touched the ancient stones of Stonehenge, it is easy to imagine thousands of years ago, people gathered here to witness the moment of the connection between the earthly and the heavenly. But the true purpose of this mysterious place, probably, will forever remain a secret, hidden in the depths of the ages. If we travel even further north, to the very edge of the British Isles, we will discover no less mysterious megalithic structure, the Callanish Stones. Situated on the western coast of the Isle of Lewis in Scotland, these ancient monoliths have stood for around 5,000 years, silently observing the changes of epochs and civilizations. Imagine a harsh northern landscape, pierced by winds from the Atlantic, low gray clouds, and amidst this harsh grandeur, a circular stone and rows of massive slabs, arranged in the form of a gigantic Celtic cross. The main stone of the complex rises 4.5 meters above the ground, like an ancient sentinel, guarding long-forgotten secrets. Local legends say that these stones are nothing but petrified giants who refused to accept Christianity, and were turned into stone by Saint Kieran. Other tales tell of a night when the moon is in a special position. The stones come to life and descend to the nearest stream to quench their 1,000-year thirst. Has anyone ever witnessed this extraordinary event? The local residents smile knowingly but maintain silence. What does modern science say about this mysterious complex? Archaeologists have established that the Callanish stones were erected in the late Neolithic or early Bronze Age, around the same time as the famous Stonehenge. Unlike its southern counterpart, Callanish has been preserved much better, and may contain more keys to understanding its purpose. Researchers have found that the main line of stones is precisely aligned with the direction of the moon's rise and set during a rare astronomical event that occurs every 18.5 years. At this moment, the moon seems to dance on the horizon, creating the illusion that it is sliding along the peaks of distant hills. Is this precise astronomical alignment a coincidence? Or did the ancient builders possess deep knowledge of the movements of celestial bodies, which we are only now beginning to rediscover? What is even more intriguing is the fact that if you look at the southern row of stones from a certain point, their silhouette exactly repeats the outlines of a mountain range on the horizon. Some researchers suggest that the Callanish stones were a unique three-dimensional star chart laid out on the Earth's landscape. But why did our ancestors need to create such a complex system? Perhaps for predicting seasonal changes, critically important for survival in the harsh climate of the Outer Hebrides? Or for deeper, ritualistic purposes, connected with the cult of their ancestors and the transition between worlds? Excavations conducted in the 19th century revealed that under the central stone was a burial chamber with the remains of human bones, burned to a white ash. This fact only adds to the mystical aura around Callanish. Was it a temple of death and rebirth, where secret rituals of transition were performed? The local peat bogs have preserved evidence that during the time of Callanish's construction, the climate was significantly milder, and the surrounding landscape was more forested. What compelled the ancient inhabitants of these places to invest enormous resources in creating such a monumental structure? Some theories link Callanish with ancient migration routes of maritime peoples, for whom these stones could have served as navigational beacons or sacred places, marking important points of their journeys. Other researchers draw attention to the unusual acoustic properties of the complex. In certain places between the stones, the human voice acquires strange, almost otherworldly overtones, and rhythmic impacts create complex sound patterns that reflect off the stone surfaces. Were these acoustic effects used to create special altered states of consciousness among participants in ancient rituals? And, perhaps, the most intriguing mystery of Callanish is its connection to other megalithic structures on the British Isles. Computer modeling has shown that Callanish, Stonehenge, and dozens of other ancient stone circles form a complex geometric network on a map, as if the ancient builders followed some grand plan covering thousands of square kilometers. How could scattered Neolithic tribes coordinate their actions with such precision? Or is this geometric network simply a product of our imagination, striving to find order in the unknown? Standing among the silent stones of Callanish at twilight, when the boundaries between heaven and earth blur, and the stars begin their slow dance on the horizon, you can't help but feel the presence of something greater than what can be explained by scientific terms. Perhaps this sense of connection with something eternal and incomprehensible was the true purpose of the ancient builders. We can only make guesses, while the stones continue to keep their secrets, patiently awaiting the day when humanity is ready to understand them. But the further we advance in our studies of ancient megalithic structures, the more mysteries arise before us, as if slowly lifting the veil over an ocean of unknown knowledge which our ancestors possessed. If we continue our journey through the mysterious places of the British Isles, we will inevitably find ourselves on the northern coast of Ireland, where nature has created one of the most amazing and mystical spectacles on the planet: the Giants' Road or the Giants' Causeway. Imagine 40,000 perfectly matched hexagonal basalt columns descending from the cliffs directly into the stormy waters of the North Channel. Each of these columns is as if carved by an invisible sculptor, their geometric forms so perfect. On foggy days, when the sea mist envelops this place, a truly mystical feeling arises, as if you are on the border between our world and some other dimension. The sound of waves breaking against ancient rocks seems like the whisper of winds trying to reveal their secrets. Official geology explains the origin of this phenomenon as an eruption of an ancient volcano around 60 million years ago. Molten basalt lava, coming into contact with cold seawater, hardened, forming the characteristic hexagonal structures as a result of what is known as columnar jointing. But can we explain this wonder of nature with dry scientific terms when standing at the edge of this stone road disappearing into the sea? It is not surprising that local legends offer a much more poetic explanation. According to ancient Irish traditions, this road was built by a mighty giant, Finn MacCool, a legendary warrior and sage whose name is shrouded in myths and legends. It is said that Finn built this road to reach Scotland and fight another giant, his sworn enemy, Benandonner. According to one legend, seeing the size of his opponent, Finn fled back to Ireland, destroying the road behind him so that the Scottish giant could not pursue him. In another, more cunning version, Finn's wife disguised him as a child, and when the Scottish giant saw the enormous size of the child, he was terrified and fled back, destroying the bridge over the sea. What is remarkable is that, on the Scottish island of Staffa, there actually exists a similar basalt formation called Fingal's Cave, named after the same mythical hero. Is this a coincidence? Or did ancient people, observing similar geological structures on opposite shores of the sea, create a legend to explain this phenomenon? Modern researchers have discovered that the basalt columns of the Giant's Causeway possess extraordinary acoustic properties. If you strike certain rocks, they produce a melodic sound reminiscent of the sounds of ancient musical instruments. Did the ancient Celts use these natural organ pipes in their rituals? Some archaeologists suggest that this place could have been the center of spiritual practices connected to the cult of the earth and the sea. Other researchers draw attention to mysterious symbols, etched but still visible on some of the columns. These petroglyphs, resembling spirals and concentric circles, are characteristic of Neolithic art in the British Isles. But what do they mean? Maps of the starry sky? A symbolic representation of the flows of energy from the earth? Or, as some alternative researchers suggest, are they the unique signatures of ancient masters who created this structure? Indeed, There exists a completely heretical theory from the perspective of official science that the Giant's Causeway is not a natural formation, but the result of the work of a highly advanced ancient civilization with technologies for stone processing that we are only beginning to understand. Supporters of this version point to the remarkable geometric precision of the hexagonal columns and their almost perfect fit to each other. Could nature create such perfection of form? Or is there a rational design behind it? Another mystery of the Giant's Causeway is what is called the Organ of the Giant, a group of basalt columns of different heights arranged at the base of the cliff. If viewed from a distance, they indeed resemble the pipes of a giant organ. But the most amazing thing is that these columns are arranged in a sequence that, with the wind of a certain strength and direction, produces a low, droning sound that travels for many kilometers around. Is this a coincidence? Or did the ancient builders possess knowledge of acoustics that allowed them to create this natural musical instrument? Local fishermen tell stories that on certain days, when the full moon reflects in the waters of the bay and the sea breeze barely touches the surface of the water, one can hear a strange melody coming from the basalt columns, as if the giant Finn. McCool himself is playing ancient Celtic tunes on his stone organ. Geologists assert that this is merely the result of the interaction of wind with the empty spaces between the columns. But does a scientific explanation diminish the wonder of this natural symphony? What else makes the Giant's Causeway even more intriguing is that it lies on the same line as other ancient megalithic structures in Ireland and Britain, forming a unique energetic meridian stretching across the islands. Researchers of ancient geomancy, of the art of reading the energy lines of the earth, assert that in these places there occurs a powerful release of telluric energy, which the ancients could sense and use. Many visitors to the Giant's Causeway note unusual sensations: dizziness, ringing in the ears, sudden flashes of intuitive understanding, or even visions of the past. Self-suggestion? Or is the boundary between worlds indeed becoming thinner? What other secrets does this amazing place hold? Why, on a full moon, do the basalt columns seem to glow from within with a faint blue light? Why do compasses and other electronic devices often malfunction in certain points of the Giant's Causeway? And why, despite the constant influence of the Atlantic storms, these stone structures maintain their geometric precision over millions of years? Standing at the edge of this amazing stone road disappearing into the sea, one cannot help but wonder, what if the legends are not lying? What if behind the dry geological explanations lies something greater? Ancient wisdom, lost knowledge, a connection to forces that modern science is only beginning to understand. And while the waves of the Atlantic crash against the basalt columns, and the wind sings its eternal song among the stone hexagons, the Giant's Causeway continues to keep its secrets, waiting for those who can decipher them. But perhaps the greatest wisdom lies in simply accepting this wonder of nature, or the creation of the ancients, as it is, beautiful, mysterious, and incomprehensible, just like life itself. If the Road of the Giants impresses us with its monumental grandeur, then the following enigma, which we must tell, captivates us with the delicate refinement of human genius embodied in stone. Let us travel north, to the shores of the Baltic Sea, to the island of Gotland, the pearl of Sweden, where natural beauty coexists with one of the most mysterious archaeological finds of northern Europe: ancient stone labyrinths, known to local residents as Trojan fortresses or Jungfrau dances of virgins. Imagine this: on the wind-swept coastal cliffs, among the heather and low-growing pines, there are laid out intricate spiral patterns of labyrinths, the age of which, according to scientists, may reach 3,000 years. In total, more than 50 such structures have been discovered on Gotland, more than anywhere else in the world. Each labyrinth presents a complex system of concentric circles with a single winding path leading from the entrance to the center. The stones from which they are laid are not held together by any mortar. They simply rest on the ground, defying storms and time over the course of millennia. In the foggy days when the milk-white mist envelops the coast and the waves of the Baltic crash against the ancient rocks, these stone patterns seem to be drawn by an unknown hand at the boundary between worlds. Remarkably, official archaeology has not yet been able to provide a definitive answer to the question of what the purpose of these mysterious constructions was. Who created these complex stone patterns on the edge of the earth, facing the boundless sea? Some researchers believe that the Gotland labyrinths had ritual significance and were connected to ancient fertility cults. According to this theory, the winding path of the labyrinth symbolized the path to rebirth, and the ritual of walking through it was a unique journey of the soul through death to a new life. Others see in the labyrinths astronomical instruments, unique calendars that allowed the ancient inhabitants of the island to track the movement of the sun and determine important dates for the agricultural cycle. Notably, many labyrinths are oriented in such a way that on the days of the solstices and equinoxes, the sun's rays illuminate certain sections of the stone spirals, creating a striking play of light and shadow. But perhaps the most intriguing aspect is the connection of the Gotland labyrinths with maritime legends and beliefs. Local fishermen, until the beginning of the 20th century, performed special rituals at these ancient structures before setting out to sea. They believed that the spirits of the labyrinths could bring a successful catch and protect from storms. According to ancient legends, if one walks along the spiral path of the labyrinth in the correct direction and at a certain time of the day, one can trap evil spirits of the sea, bringing storms and shipwrecks. Ethnographers have recorded an amazing custom. Fishermen, walking through the labyrinth, left small offerings in its center: coins, pieces of amber, sometimes fishing hooks, as gifts to the sea deities. And what if these labyrinths were indeed unique portals, places of power where the thin boundary between our world and the world of spirits became particularly permeable? Some researchers of paranormal phenomena assert that in the center of the Gotland labyrinths, unusual electromagnetic fluctuations can be recorded, not characteristic of the surrounding area. Was it a coincidence that the ancient builders chose precisely these places for their mysterious constructions? Or did they possess knowledge of geomagnetic anomalies, which modern science is only beginning to understand? A special mystery is presented by the fact that similar labyrinths have been discovered in the most distant corners of the planet, from Scandinavia to India, from Russia to Peru. How can we explain such a striking similarity of constructions created by peoples who, it would seem, could not have had contact with each other? Some researchers see in this evidence of the existence of an ancient global civilization that passed its knowledge to various cultures. Others suggest that the form of the labyrinth is an archetypal symbol, arising in human consciousness independently of cultural context, a unique reflection of the structure of our mind or even the universe. Especially intriguing is the double labyrinth in the village of Viby, a unique construction consisting of two connected spirals, forming a figure reminiscent of the symbol of infinity. Astronomers have discovered that the arrangement of the stones in this labyrinth with remarkable accuracy reflects the configuration of certain constellations visible over Gotland during the winter solstice. A coincidence? Or evidence of the deep astronomical knowledge of the ancient inhabitants of the island? Linguists who study ancient runes have made an even more astonishing discovery. On some stones of the Gotland labyrinths, faint runic inscriptions have been found, so weathered that they are practically impossible to read completely. However, the deciphered fragments speak of a path to the stars, gates between worlds, and the dance of 9 worlds, concepts surprisingly consonant with the cosmology of the ancient Scandinavians, who represented the universe as a system of 9 interconnected worlds, connected by the world tree Yggdrasil. No less intriguing is the acoustic aspect of the Gotland labyrinths. Researchers who conducted experiments with sound waves in these ancient structures discovered that certain sections of the labyrinth possess unique acoustic properties. If one stands in the center of the labyrinth and speaks in a certain tone, a resonance effect is created, and the sound is amplified, giving the impression that the speaker is surrounded by an invisible choir of voices. Were these acoustic properties used in ancient rituals? Were the labyrinths unique sound chambers that amplified the effects of hymns and incantations? Local legends tell of strange sounds that can be heard from the labyrinths on certain nights of the year, especially during the summer solstice, resembling distant singing or whispering in an unknown language. A rational explanation speaks of the wind playing among the stones, but is that really the whole truth? Or in these special moments, does the boundary between the past and the present, between our world and the world of spirits, become thinner? Another remarkable feature of the Gotland labyrinths is their geometric precision. Despite the apparent simplicity of the construction, creating a correct labyrinth requires a deep understanding of the principles of geometry and mathematical proportions. How could the ancient inhabitants of the island, without modern measuring instruments, create such perfect geometric figures? Some researchers suggest that the builders of the labyrinths used a simple but effective system of ropes and pulleys, allowing them to mark correct circles and spirals. Others see in this evidence of lost knowledge passed down from generation to generation through secret societies or priestly castes. And finally, the most intriguing question: why did Gotland become the center of these mysterious constructions? What is special about this Baltic island that attracted the ancient builders of labyrinths? Geologists note that Gotland is located at the intersection of several tectonic faults, creating a unique geomagnetic field. Astronomers point to the special position of the island, making it an ideal place for observing certain astronomical phenomena. And researchers of ancient cults speak of Gotland as an island of gods, a sacred place where, according to Scandinavian sagas, mythical creatures, the elves, dwelled, guardians of ancient knowledge. Standing at the edge of one of these ancient labyrinths, when the Baltic wind rustles the hair and the cries of the seagulls merge with the roar of the waves, one cannot help but wonder how many more mysteries these silent stones hold. How many generations of people have walked along the winding paths of the labyrinths, seeking answers to eternal questions about life, death, and their place in the boundless universe. And perhaps the main value of the Gotland labyrinths is not in their practical purpose, whatever it may have been, but in the fact that they make us think about the thin thread that connects us with our distant ancestors, people who, like us, looked at the stars and sought their path in the labyrinth of existence. But the ancient stone labyrinths of Gotland are just one of the many mysteries that this land holds. The ancient stone labyrinths of Gotland are just one of many mysteries that this land holds. Let us now transport ourselves to a completely different era and landscape in the magnificent Alps, where among the snow-capped peaks and emerald valleys stands one of the most enigmatic structures of Central Europe, the Castle of Hohenwerfen. Imagine this. On the summit of a sheer cliff rising 80 meters above the valley of the river Salzach, as if growing out of the mountain itself, stands a medieval fortress whose stern walls conceal secrets that have not been deciphered to this day. The first mentions of the castle date back to the 11th century, when the Archbishop of Salzburg ordered the construction of an impregnable fortress to protect the southern borders of his domains. Over the centuries, Hohenwerfen served not only as a military outpost, but also as a residence for archbishops, a prison for notable criminals, and a hunting lodge. However, behind the official history of the castle lies something far more intriguing: its underground tunnels stretching deep into the rock on which it stands. According to ancient chronicles, There exists an entire labyrinth of tunnels, passages, and chambers beneath the castle, many of which remain unexplored to this day. Local legends tell of secret passages leading from the castle to neighboring mountains and even to Salzburg itself. What makes the underground chambers of Hohenwerfen truly enigmatic are the artifacts discovered there during restoration work in the 1960s. In one of the walled-off rooms, accidentally opened by workers, objects were found that, seemingly, could not have been in a medieval castle. Among them were metallic plates with engravings depicting objects remarkably similar to modern aircraft, fragments of an unknown mechanism consisting of intricately shaped gears, and several crystals of unusual shape with symbols carved into them, not corresponding to any known ancient script. Official science offers a rational explanation. These objects may have ended up in the castle much later than its construction, possibly in the 18th or 19th century, when alchemy and occult sciences flourished in Europe. However, this explanation does not account for one important fact. The room where the artifacts were found was walled off and sealed in a manner characteristic of the 13th century, and the seals bore the coat of arms of the Archbishop of Salzburg, who ruled during that period. How could objects technologically advanced by centuries end up in a secret chamber sealed in the 13th century? Some researchers propose a bold hypothesis. It is possible that in medieval Salzburg there existed a secret society possessing knowledge and technologies far surpassing the general level of development of that epoch. In favor of this theory are strange entries in the diaries of some archbishops, where mention is made of masters of hidden knowledge and keepers of heavenly secrets, whom the Church protected. Of particular interest is the diary of Archbishop Leonhard von Kochach, dated to the year 1499, where he describes a meeting with a certain Master Wilhelm, who showed him a device that allowed one to see distant places without the need for physical movement. Was this a primitive prototype of a telescope or some other optical device invented 100 years before the official date of creation of similar devices? Even more mysterious are the parchments found in the same secret chamber. Most of them are written in Latin, but with the use of a complex cipher that modern cryptographers have only partially deciphered. The deciphered fragments contain descriptions of astronomical observations of extraordinary accuracy, mathematical formulas ahead of their time, and strange mentions of celestial chariots and star messengers. One text speaks of people coming from beyond the sky to share wisdom with the chosen ones. Is this a metaphorical description of angels, characteristic of medieval religious literature, or something entirely different? The inhabitants of the Salzach Valley have passed down legends from generation to generation about strange fires that can sometimes be seen above the castle on moonless nights, fires that move against the wind and sometimes hover motionless above the highest tower. Skeptics explain this as atmospheric phenomena characteristic of alpine valleys, but those who have seen these fires up close assert that they move with too much purpose to be a natural phenomenon. Intriguing is the fact that the castle archives contain records of observations of these fires dating back to the 14th century, long before such phenomena became a subject of scientific interest. Particularly mysterious is the story of the subterranean lake, said to exist deep beneath the castle. According to the legend, it is inhabited by a strange creature, something between a giant salamander and a human, which the archbishops kept in captivity and fed with condemned criminals. This sounds like a typical medieval horror story, but in the 1980s, a group of speleologists actually discovered a complex system of subterranean water bodies beneath the castle, and in the sediments on the bank of one of them, they found strange traces that do not correspond to any known animals of this region. As for the supposed secret passages leading from the castle, one of them was accidentally discovered in 1999 during construction work in a village located 3 kilometers from Hohenwerfen. A narrow tunnel, cut into the rock at a depth of 15 meters, led in the direction of the castle, but its further exploration was halted due to a collapse of the rock. Analysis of the methods of rock processing in the tunnel showed that it was created in the 13th or 14th century, during a period when the construction of such underground structures was an extremely complex engineering task. Why was it necessary to create such a long and technically complex secret passage? What needed to be hidden, or, conversely, what needed to be secretly delivered to the castle? Perhaps the most intriguing mystery of the Castle Hohenwerfen is associated with the so-called Black Library, a collection of rare books and manuscripts that, according to historical documents, was stored in the castle until the 16th century, and then disappeared without a trace during the peasant uprising of 1525. Descriptions of this library mention texts in unknown languages, books from heaven, and manuscripts containing knowledge dangerous to the uninitiated. Some researchers believe that the library was not destroyed but hidden somewhere in the castle's underground chambers and is still waiting to be discovered. Each stone of this ancient fortress seems to hide its own secret. Each dark corridor may lead to the solution of another mystery. Despite all the research and excavations, the Castle Hohenwerfen continues to keep its secrets, occasionally lifting the veil of mystery only to plunge us back into the depths of conjecture and speculation. Looking at its stern walls rising above the valley, as if a sentinel of another time, one cannot help but ask, what else is hidden in its underground chambers? What knowledge was accessible to those who lived here centuries ago? And are not the strange artifacts found in the castle's secret chambers the key to understanding our past, which may turn out to be much more complex and mysterious than we are accustomed to think? The Château de Hohenwerfen is just one link in the mysterious chain of ancient secrets that shroud Europe. Let us now travel south to sunny France, where on the picturesque hills of Provence, one of the most extraordinary archaeological enigmas of the continent lies hidden: the Bruzen dolmens. Imagine this: amidst olive groves and lavender fields, bathed in the golden light of the southern sun, colossal stone structures stand as silent sentinels of time, having endured 5 millennia. These megalithic tombs, constructed from gigantic stone slabs weighing tens of tons each, are not only impressive in their size, but also in their inexplicable precision. The stone blocks are perfectly fitted together without the use of any binding material, and the structures are oriented with remarkable astronomical accuracy. The main dolmen of Bruzen, known as Pierre de Fay or the Stone of the Fay, consists of 7 massive vertical slabs supporting a horizontal roof slab weighing more than 80 tons. How could ancient builders, without wheels, metal tools, or mechanical lifts, transport and install such colossal stones? This question has not yet found a satisfactory answer for archaeologists and engineers. Official science suggests the use of primitive wooden rollers, levers, and thousands of human hands, but mathematical calculations show that even with such an approach, the task seems almost impossible for the technological level of the Neolithic era. What makes it even more intriguing is the fact that the Bruzen dolmens were built with extraordinary astronomical precision. The main axis of Pierre de Fay perfectly aligns with the direction of the sunrise on the winter solstice, and the smaller dolmens form a complex geometric system reflecting the positions of key stars and constellations. How could people living 5,000 years ago possess such deep astronomical knowledge without telescopes and mathematical instruments? And why did they invest so much effort and knowledge in creating burial structures? Radiocarbon analysis of human remains found inside the dolmens confirms their age to be around 5,000 years. However, the strangeness lies in the fact that the stone constructions themselves look much older than the burials within them. Some researchers propose a daring hypothesis. Perhaps the dolmens were originally built not as tombs, but for some other, more complex purpose, and were only later converted into burial sites. The strange symbols and petroglyphs carved on the inner surfaces of some dolmens add another layer of mystery. Spiral patterns, zigzag lines, schematic starry sky images. These symbols are found not only in Bruzan, but also on megalithic structures throughout Europe, from Ireland to Malta. How can we explain this uniformity of symbolism among peoples separated by hundreds and thousands of kilometers in an era when travel was extremely difficult? Does this not indicate the existence of some common culture or, at least, a shared religious tradition that encompassed a significant part of prehistoric Europe? The acoustic properties of the Bruzan dolmens add yet another layer of mystery. Inside the main dolmen, even a quiet sound acquires strange resonant qualities, and at certain frequencies, a phenomenon of standing waves occurs, where the sound seems to materialize in the air, creating almost tangible vibrations. Modern acousticians who have studied this phenomenon have concluded that such properties could not be accidental in the construction of the dolmen. The proportions of the chambers and even the material of the stones were specifically chosen to create this effect. But why did the Neolithic builders need to create structures with such complex acoustic characteristics? Local legends, passed down from generation to generation, tell of strange fires sometimes seen around the dolmens on moonless nights and of inexplicable sounds coming from within the stones. Skeptics attribute these stories to a rich imagination and natural phenomena. But what is intriguing is that similar legends are associated with megalithic structures around the world, from Stonehenge to the pyramids of Central America. Are these coincidences pointing to some real, but still unexplained by science, phenomenon? Another mystery of the Bruzan dolmens is related to the material from which they were built. Geological analysis showed that the massive stone slabs were quarried in a quarry located more than 30 kilometers from the construction site. The ancient builders would have had to overcome several hills and river valleys, transporting stones weighing tens of tons. How was this technically possible without wheeled transport and draft animals? Some researchers suggest that the stones could have been transported on snow or ice using primitive sleds, but climatic studies show that in the Neolithic era, the climate in this region was even warmer than it is now, and prolonged snow periods were extremely rare. In 1999, a group of archaeologists discovered under one of the smaller dolmens a strange artifact, a small plate of an unknown metal alloy with symbols engraved on it, reminiscent of constellations. Metallurgical analysis showed that the alloy contains elements that were only used in metallurgy in the 19th century of our era. How could such an object end up under a structure built 5,000 years ago? Official science suggests that the plate could have been accidentally dropped or lost during more recent excavations, but a thorough study of the soil layers around the site of discovery did not reveal any signs of disturbance. What is even more mysterious is the fact that the arrangement of the symbols on the plate corresponds to the real arrangement of stars on the sky about 12,000 years ago, long before the assumed time of construction of the dolmens, and even before the beginning of the developed human civilization in this region. How can we explain this coincidence? Perhaps the Bruzan dolmens are much older than we assume, or their builders possessed astronomical knowledge far surpassing their era. Local residents tell of strange phenomena occurring around the dolmens during the days of the solstices and equinoxes. According to their words, on these days, inside the main dolmen, a unique light effect occurs. A beam of light, passing through a narrow slit between the stones, successively illuminates various symbols carved on the inner walls. Skeptical scientists long considered these stories to be a fabrication until a group of astronomers documented this phenomenon in 1989. It turned out that the light projection does indeed occur, but only on the winter solstice and only under certain atmospheric conditions. Computer modeling showed that 5,000 years ago, when the dolmens were built, this effect should have been much brighter and more frequent due to a different inclination of the Earth's axis. Was this light phenomenon deliberately designed by the ancient builders? And if so, what significance did they attribute to this occurrence? The Bruzan dolmens hold many more secrets waiting to be revealed. Each stone of these ancient structures, warmed by the southern sun, seems to whisper to us stories from the depths of time. Stories of people possessing knowledge and skills that we still cannot fully understand and explain. Looking at these silent megaliths, one cannot help but ask, what else do we not know about our ancestors? What knowledge has been lost over the centuries? And are not these stone giants the key to understanding our past? A past that may be much more complex and mysterious than described in history textbooks? Bruzan's dolmens are just one of many enigmas scattered across Europe. Let us transport ourselves to the harsh and mysterious Scotland, where among the misty moors and majestic mountains lies a secret known to few, even among historians. In the heart of the Scottish Highlands, in the Glenmore Valley, lies Loch Oich, a dark mirror of water, surrounded by ancient forests and silent mountains. Its cold waters have long held a secret, only accidentally revealed in 1983, when an unusually hot summer led to a significant drop in the lake's water level. What was revealed to the eyes of the local residents was astonishing even to the seasoned Scottish mountaineers. The tops of massive stone structures, clearly of human origin, emerged from the water. Further research by a team of archaeologists from Edinburgh University revealed a complex of megalithic structures under the waters of Loch Oich. Stone circles, roads, and foundations of strange pyramid-like structures, with no equivalents in Celtic or Pictish architecture. Particularly intriguing was the so-called underwater circle, a circle of 13 vertical stones, each about 4 meters high, surrounding a central altar stone of unusual shape. Radiocarbon analysis of organic materials found among the stones showed that the structures were around 7,000 years old, making them significantly older than the Egyptian pyramids and even the famous Stonehenge. But how can this be explained, given that there is no mention of these grand structures in any historical chronicle or Gaelic legend? Geological research showed that the water level in the lake rose approximately 5,000 years ago, possibly due to tectonic changes or climatic shifts. This means that the complex was submerged long before the advent of writing in this region, and any memory of it could have been preserved only in oral traditions, which over time were lost or transformed beyond recognition. Even more intriguing is the arrangement of the underwater structures. Computer modeling showed that the main axis of the underwater circle is precisely oriented towards the point of sunrise on the summer solstice 7,000 years ago. Moreover, the arrangement of the auxiliary stone circles and roads forms a complex geometric system that, according to some researchers, reflects the position of certain constellations in the night sky of that period. How could the ancient builders achieve such remarkable accuracy without any astronomical instruments? And why did they need to create such a complex astronomical observatory? Special interest is presented by the strange symbols found on some of the underwater stones. These petroglyphs, preserved due to a protective layer of ice, do not resemble any known systems of ancient European writing. Spiral patterns, concentric circles, and mysterious zigzag lines resemble more a mathematical code than traditional religious symbols. Professor Ian Macpherson, a leading epigraphist at Edinburgh University, conducted a comparative analysis of these symbols with ancient writings from around the world and discovered an astonishing similarity with symbols found on artifacts from the Vinca culture, which existed on the Balkans around 7,000 years ago. But how can this connection between the Scottish Highlands and the Balkans be explained in such a distant epoch, when, according to traditional historical views, contacts between such distant regions were minimal or non-existent? Another mystery of Loch Oich is the material from which some elements of the underwater structures were made. While most of the stones are local granite, The central altar stone of the underwater circle and several other key elements of the complex were made of basalt, a volcanic rock, the nearest natural deposits of which are on the island of Skye, 150,000 kilometers from Loch Oich. How could these heavy stones have been transported over mountains and lakes in an era when there were no wheels, roads, or draft animals? Even more strange is the fact that microelemental analysis of the basalt showed that it originated not from the island of Skye, but from a region that is now under the waters of the North Sea, and was submerged due to the retreat of glaciers around 8,000 years ago. Does this mean that the stones were quarried and transported even before the submersion of this territory? Acoustic research conducted using specialized underwater equipment revealed another remarkable feature of the underwater circle. It turned out that under certain conditions, such as strong northwest winds, water passing between the stones creates low-frequency vibrations that resonate with the natural frequency of the stones, producing a strange humming sound, audible even on the surface of the lake. Local residents have long known about this phenomenon. Loch Oich is sometimes called the Singing Lake, or the Lake of Whispering Spirits. However, only modern acoustic research showed that this effect is not accidental. The arrangement and shape of the stones are apparently specifically designed to create this acoustic phenomenon. Why did the ancient builders need to create such an acoustic effect? Some researchers suggest that the complex may have been used not only as an astronomical observatory, but also as a kind of sound resonator for ritual purposes. It is known that many ancient cultures attributed special significance to sound in their religious practices, considering certain tones and vibrations capable of changing the state of consciousness and establishing a connection with the spiritual world. Could the builders of the underwater complex at Loch Oich have possessed advanced knowledge in the field of acoustics and astronomy, which we traditionally do not associate with cultures of the Stone Age? In 1999, a group of geophysicists studying the bottom of the lake using a georadar discovered an even more enigmatic structure under the underwater circle, a system of underground chambers and tunnels leading deep into the rocky bottom of the lake. Due to technical limitations and the complexity of underwater archaeological work, these underground structures remain unexplored to this day, giving rise to numerous speculations and hypotheses. What secrets are hidden in these underwater chambers? Are they just storage rooms, burial chambers, or did they serve some other, more mysterious purposes? Local folklore preserves vague mentions of underwater dwellings of an ancient people and a sunken country to the north of Glenfinnan. But how much of these legends reflects real historical events, and how much is a product of popular fantasy remains unclear. Another intriguing aspect of the mystery of Loch Oich is the strange effect that, according to some researchers and divers, is experienced by those who spend a long time near the underwater structures. Professional divers participating in archaeological expeditions reported unusual sensations, altered perception of time, strange visual effects, and even brief hallucinations, especially when inside the underwater circle. Skeptics explain these phenomena as the effect of nitrogen narcosis, a known effect that occurs during deep dives. However, the strangeness lies in the fact that similar sensations were experienced even by those who used special gas mixtures, excluding the possibility of nitrogen narcosis, and even by those in boats directly above the stone structures but not diving under the water. Could this be related to some geomagnetic anomalies in this area, or to the peculiar properties of the stones themselves? In the 2010s, an international expedition using new equipment for underwater archaeology discovered among the stones of the underwater circle several artifacts that further complicated the mystery of Loch Oich. Among the finds were stone spheres of ideal spherical shape, covered with strange geometric patterns, and a small statue made of an unknown black material, depicting a human figure with a disproportionately large head. Laboratory analysis showed that the stone spheres were made of local granite, but the degree of polishing and geometric precision of the sphere required tools and technologies that, according to traditional views, should not have existed 7,000 years ago. Even more enigmatic was the black statue. Spectral analysis showed that it was made of a material containing carbon in a crystalline form, reminiscent of modern composite materials. How can the presence of such technologically advanced artifacts in the Neolithic context be explained? The submerged ruins of Loch Oich continue to keep their secrets, challenging our understanding of the technological capabilities of ancient people and the level of development of prehistoric civilizations. Each stone of this enigmatic complex, submerged in the cold waters of the Scottish lake, seems to whisper to us, "Your history is incomplete. Your knowledge of the past is limited. We are witnesses of times of which you are not even aware." And looking at these silent megaliths, one cannot help but ask, how many more such testimonies of ancient knowledge and technologies are hidden under the waters of lakes and seas, in impassable jungles and deserts, waiting for their time to turn our understanding of human history upside down? If the secretive mysteries of Loch Oich remain hidden from the eyes of the majority of people, then another, no less enigmatic attraction of antiquity is accessible to anyone who visits the quiet coastal region of Brittany in France. Here, washed by salty Atlantic winds, stand the silent witnesses of a long-gone epoch, the magnificent stones of Carnac, one of the most grandiose megalithic complexes in the world. Imagine, more than 3,000 vertically installed stones arranged in perfectly straight lines, stretching for several kilometers across fields and hills. Some of these menhirs reach 6 meters in height and weigh more than 50 tons. They have stood here for 6,000 years, silently observing the change of civilizations, empires, and epochs. The morning mist, spreading between the rows of these stone giants, creates almost a mystical atmosphere, as if you have stepped over an invisible boundary between the present and the distant past. The first scientific studies of the Carnac stones began in the 18th century, but even now, this monumental complex still raises more questions than answers. Who and why created these perfectly aligned stone alleys? How did the prehistoric builders, without metallic tools, wheels, or draft animals, manage not only to quarry the stones, but also to transport and install thousands of multi-ton megaliths? And what is the meaning of this grandiose stone composition, the creation of which, according to archaeologists' estimates, should have taken at least 3 to 4 generations of ancient builders? Traditional archaeology offers several theories about the purpose of the Carnac stones. According to one of them, it was a huge burial complex associated with the cult of ancestors. Another theory considers the stones as a boundary of sacred territory or a ceremonial path for religious processions. A third hypothesis links them to ancient beliefs about fertility and agricultural cults. However, all these explanations do not answer the question of why such grandiose structures, requiring colossal labor, were created to achieve these goals. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Carnac stones is their astronomical orientation. Detailed studies conducted in recent decades have shown that the arrangement of the main lines of menhirs corresponds to important astronomical orientations, such as the points of sunrise during the solstices and equinoxes, as well as some lunar cycles. Moreover, computer modeling has shown that if the entire complex is viewed from the height of a bird's flight, the arrangement of the stones forms a unique map of the starry sky as it was 6,000 years ago. But how could the ancient builders, presumably without writing, possess such accurate astronomical knowledge? And why did they need to materialize these knowledge in the form of thousands of multi-ton stones? Professor Jean-Pierre Lamarck, who has been studying the Carnac stones for more than 30 years, proposed the hypothesis that the complex served as a kind of astronomical observatory and calendar, allowing the ancient inhabitants of Brittany to accurately determine the onset of seasons for agricultural work. However, other researchers point out the excessive complexity of such a system for simply determining the seasons, which could be achieved with much simpler constructions requiring significantly fewer labor costs. The technology of installing these giant stones also remains a mystery. Experimental archaeology has shown that even with the use of wooden rollers, levers, and primitive ropes for transportation and installation of a single large menhir, it requires no less than 200 people. Considering that the population of Neolithic Brittany was relatively small, the question arises, how could small communities of hunters-gatherers and early farmers mobilize such labor resources over many generations? What motivation stood behind this colossal project? Another mysterious aspect of the Carnac stones is their acoustic properties. In 2012, a group of researchers from Princeton University discovered that under certain atmospheric conditions, especially during calm dawn hours, between the rows of menhirs, a unique acoustic effect occurs. Sounds pronounced in certain points of the complex are amplified and resonate, giving the impression that the speaker is surrounded by invisible interlocutors. Moreover, ultrasound scanning has shown that many stones have internal cavities and cracks, arranged in such a way that at certain vibrations, they can amplify sound waves of certain frequencies. Is this a coincidence or the result of a deliberate selection of stones with special acoustic properties? Local folklore preserves many legends about the Carnac stones. According to one of them, these are petrified Roman legionaries, turned into stone by Saint Cornelius for persecuting Christians. Another legend says that the stones are ancient gods who descended to earth and froze in anticipation of the end of times. But the most intriguing legend is about the singing stones. According to it, on certain nights of the year, especially during the solstices, the stones begin to vibrate and emit a low humming sound, as if conversing with each other in a long-forgotten language. Remarkably, modern acoustic studies partially confirm this legend, showing that under certain atmospheric conditions and temperature fluctuations, some menhirs can emit sounds due to the microscopic expansion and contraction of cracks in the stone. Separate attention deserves the strange symbols and petroglyphs found on some of the Carnac stones. These are spirals, concentric circles, zigzag lines, and schematic drawings resembling snakes or waves. For a long time, it was believed that these images belonged to later epochs than the megaliths themselves. However, new dating methods have shown that many of them were created simultaneously with the installation of the stones. Particularly enigmatic is the so-called stone with a map, a flat menhir on the surface of which a complex system of lines and points is carved, resembling a map of the starry sky, or, according to some researchers, a schematic representation of the coastline of Brittany as it was before the rise of the sea level at the end of the last ice age. If the latest interpretation is correct, this means that the creators of the Carnac stones could have possessed cartographic knowledge, which traditionally is considered an achievement of much later civilizations. In recent years, an increasing number of researchers are inclined to think that the Carnac stones could have served not one, but several purposes simultaneously. As an astronomical observatory, a ritual complex, an acoustic laboratory, and a means of transmitting knowledge to subsequent generations. This multifunctionality could explain the colossal labor costs for the creation of the complex, as it represented not just a temple or a cemetery, but a center of life of the ancient society, a place where all the most important aspects of its existence were concentrated. But even this complex theory does not answer the main question. From where did the Neolithic inhabitants of Brittany acquire such complex astronomical, acoustic, and possibly cartographic knowledge? Were they the result of thousands of observations and experiments passed down from generation to generation? Or, as some more daring researchers suggest, could these knowledge have been inherited from some even older, now completely disappeared civilization? The Callanish Stones continue to keep their secrets, challenging our understanding of the capabilities of ancient people and the level of development of prehistoric societies. They stand, silent and enigmatic, under the Breton sky, as if waiting for humanity to finally be ready to understand the message encrypted in their arrangement and symbols. And looking at these ancient megaliths, one cannot help but ask, what else do we not know about our distant ancestors? What other secrets do these silent witnesses of long-gone epochs hide from us? And how many more such enigmas are scattered around the world, waiting for their researcher who will finally decipher their ancient code? Traveling along the traces of ancient mysteries, it is impossible not to notice how frequently megalithic structures are found along the coasts of Europe, as if ancient builders were striving to create an invisible network of stone lighthouses connecting the continents. Let us now travel from the foggy Brittany to the northern shores of Scandinavia, where among the green hills and cold fjords, another mysterious testament to the skill of our ancestors lies hidden: the magnificent stone ship of Ale, located in the province of Skåne in southern Sweden. Imagine a 67-meter-long, perfectly crafted stone construction embodying the form of an ancient ship, frozen in time, like an ossified phantom of a Viking longship, ready to set sail at any moment and embark on its final voyage across the waves of eternity. 59 massive boulders, the tallest of which reaches 3.5 meters, form an impeccable contour of the ship, oriented from northwest to southeast. When the morning fog dissipates between these ancient monoliths, and the first rays of the sun paint their surfaces with golden hues, a nearly mystical sensation is created, as if standing on the border of two worlds, our own and that of the souls of the ancient Scandinavians. The cold granite of these stones, polished by millennia of rain and wind, harbors secrets that modern science has yet to decipher. The first archaeological investigations of the stone ship of Ale began in the late 19th century, but scientists have not yet reached a consensus on its true purpose and exact age. Radiocarbon analysis of organic materials found among the stones indicates a period between the 5th and 6th centuries of our era, preceding the classical Viking period. However, some elements of the construction and orientation of the structure suggest that its foundation could have been laid significantly earlier, possibly during the Bronze Age, around 3,000 years ago. Is the stone ship of Ale not the result of a multi-generational evolution of a sacred place, where each generation added new elements to the existing structure? Professor Magnus Eriksson of Lund University, who has devoted more than 20 years to the study of the stone ship of Ale, proposed a hypothesis that this structure served as a complex burial complex for the ancient Scandinavian elite. In the central part of the ship, archaeologists discovered traces of cremation and fragments of richly decorated artifacts, which seemed to confirm this theory. However, the size and complexity of the structure significantly exceed the needs of even the most elaborate burial ritual. Why create such a grand monument if its function was limited to burial ceremonies? One particularly intriguing aspect of the stone ship of Ale is its astronomical orientation. Detailed mapping and computer modeling have shown that the line passing through the central axis of the structure accurately points to the point of the sun's rise on the winter solstice. Moreover, if an observer stands in the stern of the ship, the sun will rise exactly over the bow of the stone vessel on the summer solstice. Is this coincidence? Or did the ancient builders deliberately orient their creation along the most important astronomical directions? And if so, how did they achieve such accuracy without modern instruments? Helge Svensson, an astronomer-archaeologist from the University of Copenhagen, suggests that the stone ship of Ale may have served as a unique observatory, allowing the ancient inhabitants of Scandinavia to track the movements of celestial bodies and determine the key dates of the agricultural calendar. The form of the ship is not accidental, she asserts. In Scandinavian mythology, the ship symbolized a journey between worlds, and the sun was seen as a celestial vessel, daily traversing the sky. By creating the stone ship, the ancient builders may have sought to materialize this cosmological concept, creating an earthly reflection of the celestial order. However, even this theory does not explain all the mysteries of Aelle. In a detailed acoustic study conducted in 2014, it was discovered that the stones forming the contour of the ship possess unusual resonant properties. If struck in a certain sequence, an effect of standing waves is created, where sound does not disperse but concentrates in the central part of the structure, giving the impression that it emanates from beneath the earth. Local legends, passed down from generation to generation, tell of the singing stones of Aelle, which in certain nights of the year, especially during the solstices, begin to vibrate and emit a low, humming sound, reminiscent of a distant choir. It is intriguing that modern acoustic studies have partially confirmed the possibility of such a phenomenon under certain temperature conditions, as the stones can indeed resonate, creating unusual sound effects. No less mysterious are the strange symbols found on some of the stones of Aelle. These are spirals, concentric circles, and lines resembling primitive star charts. For a long time, it was believed that these petroglyphs were created significantly later than the structure itself. However, the latest dating methods have shown that many of them are contemporary with the main construction. Particularly intriguing is the so-called sailor's stone, a massive monolith in the bow of the ship, on the surface of which a complex system of lines is carved, resembling a schematic representation of the constellations of the Northern Hemisphere. If this interpretation is correct, then the creators of the stone ship of Aelle possessed astronomical knowledge traditionally considered the achievement of much later civilizations. In 2018, an international group of archaeologists using non-invasive archaeological methods, georadars and magnetometers, discovered that beneath the stone ship of Aelle lies a complex system of underground structures, chambers and tunnels, forming a labyrinth, the purpose of which remains a mystery. Some of these underground chambers are located directly under the central stones of the ship and, apparently, were constructed in such a way as to enhance the acoustic effects on the surface. But who created this complex underground system? And what role did it play in the rituals conducted at the stone ship? Local folklore has preserved numerous legends about the stone ship of Aelle. According to one of them, this petrified ship is the vessel of a sea king who dared to challenge the gods and was punished for his pride. Another legend tells of the stones being warriors turned to stone by an evil witch, awaiting a hero who could break the spell. But the most intriguing legend is about an underground nation. According to it, beneath the stone ship lies the entrance to an underground kingdom, where beings reside, keeping ancient knowledge and secrets of the universe. In certain nights of the year, the legend says, the boundary between worlds thins, and then one can hear the voices of these beings, emanating from beneath the earth. It is astonishing how this ancient legend echoes with the modern archaeological discoveries of the underground structures beneath the stone ship. Coincidence? Or a reflection of real knowledge passed down through generations in the form of myths and tales? The stone ship of Aelle continues to keep its secrets, challenging our understanding of the capabilities of ancient people and the level of development of prehistoric societies in Northern Europe. It stands, silent and enigmatic, under the Scandinavian sky, as if waiting for humanity to finally understand the message encoded in its stones and symbols. And standing among these ancient monoliths, feeling their cold, silent presence, one cannot help but ask, how many more such mysteries are scattered around the world, waiting for their discoverer? What other secrets do these silent witnesses of long-gone epochs hide from us? And what else do we not know about our distant ancestors, whose technological and intellectual achievements may have been far more impressive than we are accustomed to believe? Perhaps stone ships like Ale are not just monuments to ancient gods or sleeping chieftains, but unique messages left for us by our predecessors, encoded communications that we have not yet learned to read. Traveling from the cool fjords of Scandinavia to sunny Italy, we find ourselves in Liguria, where mysterious dolmens, massive stone constructions, lie hidden on the green slopes of the mountains. These stone portals, like sentinels on the border of worlds, evoke genuine interest and awe in researchers and local residents. They believe that the dolmens are not merely remnants of ancient architecture, but magical passages leading to other realities and dimensions. Imagine, enormous stone slabs, weighing sometimes several tons, are precisely laid one on top of another, forming structures resembling vaults, under which rituals connected to worshipping gods or ancestors may have taken place. Archaeologists are convinced that these dolmens were built more than 4,000 years ago, during a time when humanity was just beginning to master the art of construction. But how could our ancestors create such grand structures using only primitive tools? How did they manage to move stones of such size without modern technologies? These questions remain unanswered, plunging us into an atmosphere of mystery and bewilderment. Some researchers suggest that the dolmens of Liguria served as burial structures, containing the remains of high-ranking individuals, while others are interested in their astronomical orientation. For the dolmens are often aligned with significant astronomical events, such as equinoxes and solstices. In this context, the question arises: did the ancient builders strive to connect the earthly and heavenly realms, creating a sacred space for communion with the gods? Professor Elisa Laurenti, a leading archaeologist working in this region, proposed a theory according to which the dolmens could have played the role of unique observatories, allowing the observation of celestial bodies and marking important agricultural cycles. However, even this version does not explain all the mysteries. Why are some dolmens located in remote places, far from any known ancient settlements? What could have attracted our ancestors to these seemingly random points on the map? In local legends, the dolmens are described as gates to the world of spirits, where beings possessing knowledge of life and death reside. It is said that at certain nights, one can hear the whispers of ancestors echoing from these stone constructions, and at such times, the boundary between worlds becomes particularly thin. Remarkably, such myths intersect with modern discoveries. Some dolmens indeed possess unique acoustic properties, creating an effect where sound, produced inside, seems to be amplified, as if echoing from another dimension. It seems that these stone constructions were not merely built for practical needs, but to serve as a link between our world and the world of spirits. However, with each new investigation, more questions arise. In 2020, a series of non-invasive analyses were conducted, revealing the presence of underground chambers beneath some dolmens, but their purpose remains a mystery. Why did our ancestors create such complex constructions? What rituals were performed here, and what secrets were they trying to preserve? Local residents, passing down their legends about the dolmens from generation to generation, continue to believe in their magical power and connection to the otherworldly realm. One of the most famous legends states that the dolmens are inhabited by the spirits of those who were once buried there, and they protect the locality from evil spirits. But how do these myths relate to scientific discoveries? Perhaps the dolmens of Liguria are not just monuments of ancient architecture, but unique repositories of knowledge that humanity gradually forgets. All the discoveries made in the surrounding areas only fuel interest in these enigmatic structures. With each new discovery, we get closer to understanding, but unfortunately, Many questions remain unanswered. We can only hope that future technologies and research will help unravel the mysteries of the dolmens of Liguria and allow us to glimpse into the distant past, when these stone portals may have indeed served as gateways to other worlds. Standing amidst these massive constructions, one cannot help but ask, how many more mysteries, hidden in the shadows of everyday life, are waiting to be discovered and understood, revealing that the ancient people were not just builders, but also keepers of hidden knowledge about our place in the universe? Transitioning from the enigmas of the dolmens of Liguria, we find ourselves in the heart of Portugal, where one of the oldest cromlechs of Europe, Almedrech, is hidden. This mysterious complex, older than the famous Stonehenge, seems to hold the secrets of ancient civilizations, of which we know so little. Located on picturesque hills, the cromlech of Almedrech consists of several dozen large stone blocks, meticulously arranged in a circle, and its grandeur strikes the imagination. Each stone here appears to be imbued with history, and one might imagine that they could reveal more about their creators than we can currently conceive. Local legends tell of living stones, which, according to tradition, are able to move at night, as if coming to life under the light of the moon. How could it be that stones, standing motionless on one spot for centuries, if not millennia, suddenly begin to live? This enigma gives rise to many questions. What if the ancient builders indeed possessed knowledge of the forces of nature, allowing them to interact with stones on a level that contemporary scientists can barely imagine? Some researchers suggest a theory according to which cromlechs like Almedrech were used as astronomical observatories, enabling the ancients to observe celestial bodies and predict important events in the life of society. However, even this version does not explain all the peculiarities. Why are cromlechs located in such remote and inaccessible places, far from major settlements and roads? Could they have served as places of worship or rituals in which only the chosen ones participated? What role did these living stones play in the lives of those who created them? Ancient traditions speak of the fact that before major events, such as solar eclipses or changes of seasons, the inhabitants of the villages would gather at the cromlech to listen to the whisper of the stones, which, in their opinion, communicated the will of the gods. It is interesting that in some places, strange acoustic phenomena were indeed observed. The sound produced inside the cromlech seemed to be amplified many times, creating the impression that the stones were communicating with those who came to them. In search of wisdom, this connection between man and stone, possibly, was not just a cultural or religious phenomenon, but something much deeper, which remains beyond our understanding to this day. In recent years, the cromlech of Almedrech has become the object of attention for archaeologists and historians who are striving to unravel its mysteries. Scientific research, such as radiocarbon dating, has allowed it to be established that the construction was erected more than 5,000 years ago, but this only fuels the interest in it. What happened to this civilization? How did they disappear, leaving behind only these stone sentinels? Some researchers suggest that the cromlech may have served not only as a place of worship, but also as a repository of knowledge containing information about the calendar, astronomy, and cycles of nature. However, despite the efforts of scientists, many questions remain open. How could the ancient people create such structures with such astronomical precision? And what if the cromlech was not just an architectural marvel, but a kind of portal connecting different dimensions? These reflections on the enigmas of Almedrech lead us to new myths and legends that continue to live in the local communities. People still tell stories about how at full moon the stones begin to move, and the spirits of the ancestors come out to observe those who have come in search of answers. But how do these myths relate to the scientific approach? Perhaps the answer lies in the fact that the ancient people possessed knowledge that we have lost, and the cromlech of Almedrech is just one of many examples indicating that our history is full of secrets and unexplored paths leading into the depths of the centuries. And standing in the shadow of these ancient stones, one cannot help but ask, how many more such enigmas are hidden in the shadows of the ordinary world, waiting for us to decipher and understand? That our history is full of mysteries and unknown paths leading into the depths of the centuries. Immersing ourselves in the atmosphere of mysteries and secrets, we now find ourselves in Spain, at one of the most enigmatic fortress walls, known as Mur de Valbona. This ancient construction, towering against the backdrop of vivid Spanish landscapes, captivates the imagination not only with its size, but also with its mysterious origins, which remain unsolved to this day. Local residents tell extraordinary stories about the wall, claiming that it grows on its own, as if it were a living creature, which only fuels interest in this place. How could such a thing happen? How could a man-made architectural structure acquire life? And what is its true nature? There are numerous theories about the origins of Mur de Valbona, but none can provide a definitive answer. Archaeologists who have studied this object have not been able to determine the exact time of construction and its purpose. Some suggest that it could have been built during the Roman Empire era, while others link it to Arab influence in the Middle Ages. However, regardless of the diversity of theories, none of them explain the strange phenomenon reported by local residents. The wall, as if on its own, increases in height, and its stones, according to the stories, can change their position. How is this possible? It is possible that this is related to the peculiarities of the local landscape or natural phenomena, but many are inclined to believe that something mystical lies behind it. Some researchers even suggest that the wall could have been built using unknown technologies lost over time. But what if this is not just a myth, but a reflection of ancient knowledge about the interaction between humans and nature? We know that in ancient times, people often associated their constructions with natural forces and spirits, which could be perceived as a kind of magic. Each stone of this fortress wall, perhaps, hides not only material but also a history full of mystery and secrets. Mur de Valbona, presumably, could have served not only as a protective structure, but also as a sacred place, where rituals connected with changes in nature were performed. In some folk legends, it is mentioned that during a full moon, the wall emits strange sounds, and those who dare to approach can hear the whispers of ancient voices calling for the unraveling of their secrets. This connection between humanity and architecture, between natural phenomena and human culture, may indicate that we still cannot comprehend the full range of knowledge that was available to our ancestors. But what is the true purpose of this enigmatic wall? Why does it attract the attention of researchers and archaeologists eager to unravel its mysteries? Scientific methods, such as radiocarbon dating, have not yet provided clear answers, and even modern technologies, such as laser scanning, only partially lift the veil over this enigma. But even with the help of all these scientific achievements, we still remain with questions. What lies behind this phenomenon? What was the true purpose of creating Mur de Valbona? Perhaps this is just one of many mysteries waiting to be revealed. And standing next to this magnificent wall, feeling the coolness of the stones and the broadness of the wind, one cannot help but ponder how many more secrets are hidden beyond the limits of our understanding, how many stories await their telling, and how much we still do not know about our past. In the end, stories like this remind us that history is full of mysteries, and each of them is just a part of a great mosaic that, perhaps, will one day reveal its secrets to us. Delving deeper into the world of ancient mysteries, let us now transport ourselves to France, to one of the most impressive megalithic structures, the Menhir de Champ Dolent. This gigantic stone, weighing more than 300 tons, stands majestically amidst green meadows and ancient trees, as if guarding the secrets of long-gone epochs. But how could this have happened in those distant times, when technologies were far from modern and people managed to move and install such a massive stone? How did they accomplish this task? These questions swirl in our consciousness, creating an atmosphere of mystery and enchantment. Historians suggest that menhirs like the Menhir de Champ Dolent could have played a significant role in the lives of ancient societies. Perhaps they served as places of worship or symbols of power and unity. However, despite numerous studies, the mystery of their transportation and installation remains unsolved. How could our ancestors use primitive tools to lift and install such a colossal stone? Are there lost technologies of which we are unaware? Some archaeologists propose theories that menhirs could have been installed with the help of systems of levers and lifting mechanisms, but how this would have looked in practice remains a subject of debate. However, delving into this mystery, one cannot help but notice more mystical aspects. Local legends tell of menhirs being installed under the patronage of deities, whose power lay in their interaction with natural elements. In ancient times, people believed that such stones could accumulate the energy of the earth, and their installation was accompanied by certain rituals. Perhaps there is some truth in this. Some researchers even suggest that menhirs could have had astronomical significance, serving as markers for observing the sky and time. But how could ancient people know so much about the cosmos without modern means? Comparing the Menhir de Champ Dolent with other megalithic structures, such as Stonehenge in England or the Callanish Stones in Brittany, we can notice a common motive: the desire to create something grand that could outlast centuries. But what were the true intentions of these builders? To whom or what did they pay homage? Some believe that menhirs were connected to ancient rituals of fertility, while others suggest they served as places for gatherings and important decisions. But all this information only adds fuel to the fire of our curiosity, leaving many questions unanswered. Standing at the foot of the Menhir de Champ Dolent, feeling the coolness of the stone and the broad grass, one cannot help but ponder how many more secrets are hidden within this enormous stone. What was the true purpose of its creation? Why was it installed precisely here, in this picturesque place? And what else can similar structures tell us about the lives of our ancestors? Gazing at this monumental symbol, we realize that each mystery, like this one, is but a part of a much larger picture, which is still waiting to be revealed. And although modern technologies, such as laser scanning and archaeological excavations, can partially lift the veil over the mysteries of the past, the true nature of these mysteries often eludes our understanding. Perhaps it is precisely this that makes them so attractive. In the end, what do we know about those who left these traces in our world? How many more secrets are hidden beyond the limits of our perception, waiting for us to decipher them? And, looking at the Menhir de Champ Dolent, we understand that history is full of unsolved mysteries, and each of them is but a part of a great journey that continues to this day. Continuing our journey into the world of ancient mysteries, let us turn our gaze to Italy, towards the enigmatic cave temples of Valle di Raia. These subterranean cult complexes, carved into soft limestone, are remarkable for their extraordinary precision and architectural harmony. Each structure here, as if under a spell, embodies the spirit of antiquity and mysticism. But what could have driven people to create such complex and perfectly constructed temples? What were their intentions, and what secrets did they wish to preserve for posterity? These questions echo through the depths of these caves, creating an atmosphere of genuine mystery. The walls of the temples are carved with such precision that today's architects could envy the skill of ancient craftsmen. Despite all the achievements of science, we remain baffled. How could ancient builders, without modern tools, achieve such accuracy? Could they have possessed knowledge and technologies that have since been lost to time? Scientific research suggests that such structures, like the temples of Valle di Raia, were likely used for rituals connected to the cult of deities, but their true purpose remains unclear. Some researchers speculate that these temples might have served as places for communion with ancestral spirits, or even as astronomical observatories. But how could this have been accomplished without precise instruments for measurement? Local legends tell of extraordinary phenomena that occurred in these sacred places, and of builders who possessed special knowledge about the interaction with natural forces. In this context, we can ask, did ancient people know something about the energy of the earth and its influence on humans? Something that we are only beginning to understand today? As we delve into the caves, we can feel the cold air penetrate our lungs and the silence fill the space, creating a sense of the presence of something otherworldly. It is as if the walls of these temples not only hide architectural secrets, but also ancient knowledge that has been lost over centuries. Many archaeologists studying these places note that their construction can be observed to contain traces of rituals related to fertility and worship of gods, but at the same time, questions remain. What specific rituals were performed here? What role did these temples play in the lives of ancient communities? Some of them propose theories that these temples could have been connected to astronomical events, serving as places for observing celestial bodies. But how could ancient people link their rituals to such phenomena, remaining confined to the limited technologies of their time? Research shows that some temples were oriented towards specific stars or solar events, raising even more questions. How could builders, without telescopes and complex astronomical calculations, achieve such precision? Standing on the threshold of these mysterious temples, we realize that each of these mysteries is just a part of a larger picture that is still waiting to be revealed. And although modern technologies can partially lift the veil over the secrets of the past, the true nature of these mysteries often eludes our understanding. How many more secrets are hidden beneath the earth, in the shadows of ancient stones and abandoned cult sites? Perhaps it is this very desire to unravel the unknown that makes us so curious and drives us forward in our quest for knowledge. In the end, every researcher who steps onto the path of unraveling these ancient mysteries must ask themselves, what do we truly know about those who left these traces in our world? And how many more mysteries await their discovery in the forgotten corners of the earth? Diving into the mystical world of the catacombs, let us direct our gaze towards the enigmatic catacombs of Domitilla, which are located beneath Rome. These ancient subterranean repositories are among the oldest and most extensive catacombs in the city, and their origins are shrouded in mystery. Constructed from soft tuff, they represent not only an architectural marvel, but also a significant historical artifact that can tell us about the early Christian communities. It is intriguing that the catacombs of Domitilla are older than the earliest written accounts of Christianity, which raises numerous questions. How could such complex structures have emerged at a time when Christianity was just beginning to form? What precisely motivated people to hide in these dark underground spaces? And what secrets could they have been hiding? This is not merely a question of time. It is also a question about the spiritual lives of those who sought refuge in these walls, where every stone and niche could have been a witness to their sufferings and hopes. Entering the catacombs, we feel the air growing cooler, and the walls, covered with the traces of time, seem to whisper about forgotten histories. Here, amidst the labyrinth of narrow corridors and burial niches, one can sense the spirit of antiquity. It is as if the very walls are imbued with memories of those who sought solace and salvation in these gloomy labyrinths. Local legends claim that not only burial rites, but also secret gatherings of the early Christians, persecuted by the authorities, were held in the catacombs. But what exactly happened here? Were these merely simple gatherings, or did the catacombs serve as a place for more profound rituals, the nature of which modern man can only conjecture? Some researchers propose that the catacombs of Domitilla could have been used as unique astronomical observatories. How could this have been achieved? The complex systems of shafts and passages suggest that the ancients could have observed celestial phenomena, using these subterranean sanctuaries as unique windows into the cosmos. But how could people living at that time have linked their religious practices with astronomy? Questions abound, as do hypotheses about the role the catacombs played in the lives of early Christians. Some suggest that the catacombs could have housed not only the bodies of the deceased, but also ancient knowledge passed down from generation to generation. Perhaps these catacombs were places where wise men and priests gathered to discuss the mysteries of existence and predict the future. How could the preserved knowledge and rituals have influenced the lives of those who sought divine guidance in these dark corridors? What was their connection to the world of the living and the dead? These questions, despite all scientific research, remain unanswered, leaving only a shadow of bewilderment. As with the catacombs of Valle d'Itria, we encounter a contrast between the known and the unknown. Historians know of the existence of the catacombs and their significance, but no one can explain exactly how they were built and used. Some believe that these underground spaces contain something greater, a knowledge that we are just beginning to grasp, but may never fully comprehend. In these catacombs, where every step echoes the past, we feel that the solution to these ancient mysteries still lies beyond our understanding. But this is not the only mystery that Rome holds. Moving along the subterranean paths, let us turn our attention to other enigmatic artifacts that may shed light on the lives of ancient people. What else is hidden in the depths of the earth, waiting to be discovered? Perhaps each journey into this mysterious history is a step towards uncovering deeper secrets that await their time to be heard. How many more secrets are hidden in the shadows of our past, waiting for us to look into their mysterious world? Delving into the world of ancient mysteries, one cannot help but notice that Europe is not just a contemporary mosaic of cities and resorts, but a continent permeated with the mystique of forgotten civilizations. Each country, each city hides within it incredible stories that await their time to be told. Archaeological finds, enigmatic artifacts, and local legends create a unique atmosphere where the past and present intertwine, opening doors to a world full of mysteries. For example, we have barely scratched the surface of the catacombs of Domitilla and their secrets, but this is only the tip of the iceberg. What else might this ancient city conceal? How many undeservedly forgotten stories await their telling? Perhaps each of us feels drawn to these places, as if something unknown calls us to explore them more deeply. And indeed, such places as Stonehenge in England or the mysterious megaliths in the Celtic world only underscore the contrast between the known and the incomprehensible. How could such an advanced civilization as the ancient Celts leave behind only remnants of their knowledge? What significance did these monuments hold for their creators, and what did they intend to convey to posterity? These questions remain open, highlighting that even in our contemporary world, filled with technology and scientific discoveries, we still find ourselves only scratching the surface of understanding ancient mysteries. And if you have ever stood before a historical monument, feeling the spirit of time penetrating you, you understand that each such encounter is an opportunity to touch something truly great and mysterious. We thank you for joining us on this journey through the traces of ancient civilizations. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel, like our videos, and share your thoughts in the comments. Which building or place would you like to see with your own eyes? We invite you to our next episode, where we will continue exploring the mystical corners of our world, filling it with new mysteries and discoveries that await to be unraveled. How many more secrets are hidden in the shadows of our history, waiting for us to look into their mysterious world?